Good afternoon, everyone. This is Marie with Funding for Good, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Grant in a Box, where program design and grant planning intersect. So we have some great free tools, resources on the Funding for Good website, and today our conversation is going to be centered around one of those. So I just wanted to show you the page on the screen. You'll be right here. You see we're on Funding for Good's homepage. We're going to just jump up here to the free stuff tab so you can see kind of where we're going. And we're going to scroll down just a little bit. So we could title these documents lots of different things because some things may look like program design, other things are grants. We try to put them in a filing system that makes sense to most people, but I definitely encourage you to play around here. So right here you see Grant Goals Spreadsheet. We're going to open that up. And when you do that, you're going to notice just a preview with a little thumbnail show up. And we're going to go to download. So once you go to download, you're going to see a Word document that you can edit, you can jump on and start making changes. This is really for you to play around with. So notice at the top of the screen it says enable editing. You're going to click on that, and then you're going to be able to rock and roll on this form. So here today we have what I like to call a grant in a box. You can call this pre-program design, you could call this program design planning, you can call this whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if you can take your program design and really brainstorm, get your ideas down in this box, you essentially have the key components of a grant in a box, literally. You see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, essentially 6 columns, and then we still have the overarching goal and outcome. About 7 components of information. Grants are usually 8 common areas. You obviously will have to plug in your organizational history information, some of that key information, but as far as program design is concerned, you can tackle a lot of that right here in this box. So let's just jump in, take a quick look, and if you have questions after you've watched this vlog, jump on Funding for Good's webpage, check out some of the other resources, jump on our Facebook page, ask questions. We always invite you to do that. Or check out our grant writing micro-series that we have going all year long to continue to build on this topic. Lots of ways to do that, but let's just jump into this right now. So sample goals, outcomes, and evaluation plan. If you look at this right here, this template was kind of created after working on lots of state and federal grants and the donors asking, the federal government basically asking for a program design, a snapshot in a table or a chart. So Mandy and I have worked for years using this template, find it incredibly helpful, and hope that you find it helpful as well. So goal 1, a lot of people get confused with this and say, okay, you have goals and objectives. If your program is, for example, an after-school program, and you have to work with different groups. You're going to be working with elementary or middle school or different grade levels. You might decide that you're going to start with an overarching goal, such as increase the academic performance of children in our after-school program. That might be an overarching goal, but it doesn't necessarily meet what we consider SMART criteria. And if you go to our blogs, or don't know what SMART is, just a quick recap. SMART means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, relevant, or timely. And a goal to be considered a stellar goal or a really good goal should meet the SMART criteria. But in the purpose of this template, you might just start out with something basic because you're brainstorming here. You might say our goal is to reduce food disparities among members of our community. It might be, increase academic performance of students. So you might just put that overarching goal up there, just get it out there, and then look at the objectives underneath and say, okay, if we're going to reduce food disparities in our communities, what are some of the key groups of people that we want to address or that we want to serve? So objective 1 might be related to seniors. It might be related to youth. It might be related to preschool age children, early childhood. It could be anything. So you're going to take each of those objectives and really define and say, we intend to provide meals to X number, a minimum of 50 seniors in Davie County on a daily basis between X date and Y date. So then you might say, okay, let me get that in there. So we're going to let's use an after school example just to keep it simple since that's my world. We're going to say increase the academic performance of a minimum of 75 third graders by 20%, that's $, between August 1, 2019 and June 10th, 2021, just assuming that's when the school year is going to end, or 2020, we have 2020 there. Okay, so you have an objective here and you say, is it specific? We're going to increase the academic performance of who? Our third graders. Is it measurable? Can you measure that increase using specific tools? Absolutely. Is it attainable? Yes, 20% is reasonable to expect within the course of the year, depending on the children you're working with and the program design you put into place. Is it realistic, relevant? Yes, you are working with a population that has that need. Is it timely? Is this coming up on us? Absolutely. You can see here this is happening this school year. You can just kind of humor me with the dates and things like that. So once you have an objective or goal, and you might not have all of this information when you start the brainstorming process, then you need to start thinking, okay, if we want to make this happen, what do we need to put in place? What strategies, what activities? So you might say, okay, we need tutoring services. We need tutoring, an after-school site. So we may say enrichment, we'll say field trips. You might say mentors, lots of things that could happen here, mentor activities. So anything that could be a strategy or an activity, you want to go ahead and put it in there. Now, these will take a little bit more shape later on, but even just one word is a great place to start. And then you're going to put timelines. You may say, okay, in the first 3 months, we're going to hire staff. So you might just say first 3 months, and we can put in there, we can put August. You might need a planning period in there, but you may just say 3 months before. So you may say June to August, screen staff, screen hire staff, and screen train and hire staff. You might say enrollment process begins in July if your program, July enrollment process begins or ends. August enrollment ends, however, whatever that looks like. So you're going to start thinking about times in your program that are important, significant to you. Once again, these are going to change as your team looks at it. And then you're going to move on and say, what kind of resources do we need here? You're going to look at everything. You're going to say, we need tutors, we need staff, we need a program director, we need a bus driver, we need someone to monitor the halls. So that might be a volunteer, it might be a staff position. Whatever it may be, you might need anything else on there, academic materials, and you want to break that down a little bit more. You might need books, computers, anything like that. So you get the idea. We're going to move through and we're going to start putting in all the things we need to make this happen. If you can divide it up into different categories, such as manpower, or we can put manpower, personnel, we might put program materials as one of the categories. We might put space as another thing, and we might need services or we'll put professional services. So maybe it's something you don't do in-house and you might need to bring someone else in to do a program. Then those might be something to consider in your little table here. So you might put little categories and then break those out. And then you're going to say, okay, we've got our tutoring program in place. We're going to do it in this time frame. We've got these resources. How are we going to test to see that we're meeting that 20% increase goal? And there is where you might say report cards. If you need report cards, what's going to happen? You're going to need a staff member that gets consent. The director, program director. I'm having a problem typing today. To get authorization from parents and secure records from schools every 9-week grading period. We could just say every 9-week grading period. So that might be one thing right there. So the report cards are going to be, that's going to be a strategy or an activity that might get moved over because you're going to have to get that authorization, but you still know who's responsible for it. You might have assessments that you do in the classroom, lots of things that are going to happen there. Once you are able to flesh this out, you're able to answer so many questions that come up in a grant. Your measurable goals and objectives. You're going to be able to explain some of the program design. What are the strategies and activities you need to make this program success? What are your timelines? This is a key grant question. What are the resources needed? That resource needed list is essentially your program or project budget. The evaluation measures, if you've ever seen a grant or you've seen impact reporting at all, you know that you have to have a way to track those. And finally, avoiding that ambiguous we. We tend to overload our staff by saying, staff will do X, Y, or Z, or we will hire a new person to do this, and everything gets dumped on that new person's plate. So this really forces you to look at every activity strategy and then break it out further and say, who's responsible for this? So this little box might grow, and by the time you add everything in, this line might be going all the way down to the next page, and you might have objective 2 on a whole nother page. So if you hopefully can see that this is working towards a grant narrative, but it's just getting your ideas on paper. Use the tool, let us know how you like it. Thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you as you continue to grow your organizations for good.